As mountains and rivers witness the domestication of plants and animals, the rise and fall of prehistoric states and empires, and the emergence of complex Andean cultures and traditions. But these landscapes are also modern, busy with construction, farming, mining, and other activities that bring people face to face with the past. Farmers regularly uncover ceramics while plowing their fields. Workers unearth tombs and human bones while digging foundations for buildings and roads. Bones and artifacts are often discarded into rubbish heaps or treated like trash. Dogs chew on human bones after they are exposed by earthquakes, rains, or human activity. When archaeological materials are removed from their context without being documented, valuable information that would allow archaeologists to understand the significance of those objects is lost forever. Looting is removing an object from its archaeological context. Because dirt and archaeological deposits build up over time, the oldest layers are normally at the bottom. When looters dig holes into a site, they disrupt the layers, and it becomes difficult for archaeologists to understand the sequence of events that took place at the site. Looters usually target ceramic vessels, metals, or objects they can sell for a high price. When those artifacts are removed from the individuals they were buried with to be sold to collectors or displayed in museums, archaeologists lose all the information about how individuals, objects, and architectural spaces relate to each other. When archaeologists excavate this site, for example, they won't find grave offerings which could have helped them determine what this person did for a living, whether they were wealthy or poor, or whether they were practicing artistic traditions of their own community or from foreign communities. This tangle of bones and textiles is all that remains after tomb robbers cut open mummy bundles from all parts of the site, looking for gold, and tossed them into the same refuse pit. Cigarette packs found in the bottom layers of the excavation prove that looters disturbed the mummies, leaving behind trash in the process. Looters don't always have criminal intentions. There is a spectrum of looting, ranging from ethical, culturally specific practices to the most egregious and unethical activities of organized criminals. People have been removing artifacts from tombs for thousands of years, not always with the intention of selling them. For example, in the prehistoric Andes, villagers removed the mummies of important kings from their tombs so they could participate in feasts and parades. Today, indigenous communities take artifacts from tombs for use in ceremonies. This confuses our understanding of the past, but these religious events don't damage sites the way organized looting does. The next kind of looting is when locals, tourists, and even archaeologists working without official permits pick up artifacts to preserve them. Locals are proud of their heritage. Rather than leaving artifacts exposed for tomb robbers, they often tuck them away for safekeeping or create small museums in their homes or community buildings. They can often tell archaeologists the provenience of an object, which can help archaeologists interpret the data and even locate new sites for scientific study. The last kind of looting is the most serious, when criminal cartels loot sites purely for economic gain. When archaeologists talk about looting, we're usually talking about this criminal kind.
Looting is a problem that archaeologists all over the world have to deal with. Looters typically break in at night into an archaeological site and they'll dig incredibly deep trenches. This particular hole is an excavation unit that we excavated. We chose to expand a looter's hole that was already present, and we excavated down further to try to find other cultural materials intact that might have been under the level of looting. So in this unit, we have evidence of at least 3 different looting events, one on the very surface, here another one about 1 meter down, and here another one about 2 meters down. So at 3 different points in time, tomb robbers excavated into this unit. So all of these materials in the profile of the wall are what remains of a disarticulated mummy bundle. So it's very clear that the tomb robbers were knifing apart the mummy bundles in order to get to the insides and see if there were any metal or gold artifacts that they would be interested in. In addition, we found lots of other very interesting artifacts here. Interesting ceramics. Here's a bird feather that has a little bit of green on it from a jungle bird that was probably part of a feathered blanket or cape or a feathered headdress. And we can't tell which individuals would have been wearing those headdresses and which individuals would have been associated with these different artifacts. So looting destroys our ability to make any interpretations based on where grave goods are with which individuals. At our site, you can see very clear-cut evidence of looting. Here's a glass bottle. that's actually pretty old. So this might be from a looting event from about 20 or 30 years ago. And you can also see buckets and plastic bottles that provide further evidence that the looters have been here. Also, you can see in front of you really large holes. The looters have already excavated about 1 meter down into the site, and presumably they've already taken a lot of materials out of the site. The real problem with archaeological looting is that it destroys provenience or archaeological context. Archaeological context is where an artifact is found in the stratigraphy of the site, and in particular how that artifact is related to all the other artifacts around it. That information is the most important information that we can gather about an artifact, how it relates to other artifacts within the site. You'll notice here that the archaeolocal sites butt up against the farms, and there are miles and miles and miles of farms in any direction. So that means that on any given day, farmers are working very, very close to the archaeological sites, and it's very, very easy for farmers or anyone to access the archaeological site and loot it. So this explains why we have such a high degree of looting in this area. And also you'll notice that the trees provide a really good cover, so you can't necessarily see that looting is going on. It's very difficult for the police to enforce the laws against looting when they can't see looting that's taking place. So here you see this is a very small sample of all of the trash that we've collected from the looters at this site, but we found lots of plastic bottles, tons of these cigarette packs, tons of plastic. The looters will use this plastic to cover up anything that they're working on, so that until they can come back and get it, if they do run out of time, or if they think they might be getting in trouble, the police might be coming, they'll cover up what they're working on with plastic so they can easily come back and remove it. We also found at least 3 different shovels when we excavated, and 2 different soil probes, which the looters use to test the resistivity of the soil and determine whether there might be a burial underneath the ground or not. This site has been thoroughly and systematically looted for the past 10 to 20 years. Looters show up at night with lanterns. We found tons of stew and soup bones that show that they're actually staying here long enough that they have to eat dinner while they're on the site. And you can see from the side of the walls here how deep the tomb robbers had to excavate to reach tombs in some places. This curve looks like it's been excavated by heavy machinery, but actually all of this site has been excavated by looters who are working in a very organized and thorough manner. We've heard stories that looters came here from as far away as the north coast of Peru on kind of looting field trips to be able to work on this site, and that they'll systematically set up at a set amount of meters apart from each other in order to sample the site, much like an archaeologist would.
We asked local college students in Peru how looting affects them, and they told us. Recently, archaeologists have turned to satellite imagery to help them track site looting. For example, this image of the site of Archaeological in the Majes Valley of Peru was taken in January 2004. Few looters' holes had been dug at that time. Later that year, the amount of surface area covered by looters' holes had increased. As time goes by, even more looters' holes become visible. Satellite monitoring allows archaeologists to track looting without even setting foot on the site. Satellite tracking, along with dedication to understanding the dynamics of looting in study communities, are enabling archaeologists to make significant headway in preserving archaeological sites worldwide.